Where were you in 1969? Do you know what's the last thing that happened in 1969 that happened for the first time since then? On the weekend, it was Newcastle winning a trophy, Chuck. And one of the more rabid fan bases in England, Newcastle, of course, coming through with the victory in the Carabao Cup final against Liverpool and ending a 56-year drought for silverware. You might look at it now as one of the fans of the big teams is 5 years. 5 years becomes 20, becomes 30, becomes a long, long time. But Newcastle have ended that drought. But I have to ask, Chuck, considering that Newcastle have won a title and ended the drought in the dispensation of the ownership of the Saudis, is this silverware tainted? Or is it still filled with all the romance of they haven't done it in a long time? Kudos to them.
There's nothing you can tell the Geordies that'll taint that particular moment. That'll take them out of that euphoria, because it's been 56 years. Whether by hook or crook, the Geordies just want to lift some piece of silverware. They were close 2 seasons ago against Man United, but got pipped in the final 2-0. But this time playing against another tougher opposition in terms of where Liverpool are and the kind of players that they have compared to that United side, they've gone a step better and they've gone to win that. So based on that, they can't, but also based on the ownership, Jay, for the mere fact that maybe now in retrospective thinking, the board and the people upstairs want to say that we want to vet people a little bit closer before we give them ownership. They got their chance fair and square. They bid for the right to buy the club, and they got permission, or they were allowed to do so. And if anything, Jay, we thought to ourselves, because we kept comparing the budgets or the value of each ownership group in terms of this team is worth 2 billion, this one 10 billion. The group that has bought Newcastle United, I think, are worth 450 billion. And we thought to ourselves, Neymar is coming to Newcastle, Mbappe is coming to. It never happened that way. And for that reason, Jay, because they spent on a Bruno Guimaraes, I think it was there even before they did that, Isak, they've spent modestly. It's still been largely a team that Eddie Howe took over when he came and got the reins. So for me, from that perspective, Jay, I think it was one fair and square. I don't think it was. I mean, we want to say as often as we can, especially me from the red side of Manchester, City bought the league, because every time they fail, they throw money at it. United throw money at it as well, it's just not at the same rate of success. But you wanna put the charge against the fact that, genuinely speaking, in the spirit of football, you guys bought your way to the titles. Newcastle did not do that, so I don't think there's tainting on any level, Jay.
Chuck.
Yes.
It's the Saudis, man. They're backed by a state. And the state which, if you go back many episodes, before we're even on YouTube speaking about this, that have performed crimes against humanity, you know, and it's hard to just full on celebrate with Newcastle. And Newcastle are everyone's second team. Like I remember in the 2000s, they were my second team. At least, like, I loved those teams with Alan Shearer, and your, who am I thinking about?
Gary Speed,
Shola Aliobi, Amiobi,
his younger brother, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and with that fan base, like I remember back in the day, like on Sky, they used to show how many fans were in the stadium, or what the average attendance was, and I remember it was always United with Old Trafford, and it was St. James's Park with Newcastle, and it's like, man, those fans fill up that stadium even though they win nothing. You know, yes, they do have some great performances, some great players. You check Tiotes, I'm saying your Alan Shearers. But they never really win anything, and they're gonna make the Champions League under Sir Bobby Robson one season, and there's a full good factor. But then you fast forward a few seasons, they get relegated. But those fans still stick with them, and they are noisy, and they are boisterous, and they love their team, and they were on the verge of being relegated once again. But Eddie Howe worked a miracle to revive them from being second to last on the log, and actually having a solid, healthy finish in that season. And then in the next season, that's when the money came, right? And that's when we see the additions of someone like an Isak, who scores a goal in that final, and he is the talisman. And it is tainted, Chuck.
No, wait.
But all of football is tainted. because the reason we're able to see Saudi ownership is because before that, we saw the Abu Dhabi group own Manchester City. Before that, we saw Roman Abramovich, who since has been kicked out of football because and he's been exonerated though as well. But he came into Chelsea, gave them $1 billion, and said, "You don't need to pay me back," you know. And he also does have a checkered past. So I'm not gonna get you and be preachy that Newcastle are tainted and they are something different other than the other teams. And the other thing is that the competitive balance was never going to be restructured away from the teams who were at a certain point already powerhouses financially, your Manchester Uniteds of this world, unless there were benefactors who came in and funded these teams. I'm not happy about the fact that Newcastle are backed by Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince because of everything I know about that country and and their violations against human rights. But as I'm saying, it's not as though we didn't see a World Cup in Qatar just a few years ago with everything.
I want to
came out
say
of that
it now.
place.
Messi's World Cup win is tainted. Continue.
And the man who is the face of Saudi Arabia is Ronaldo, who's playing there right now. You've got no leg to stand on. Don't you dare come at Lionel Messi and his ties to winning a World Cup in the desert. Like
he's growing the
when you've
football
got
there.
the highest paid athlete in the world was continuing to front.
He's there for change, just like Beckham was there for change.
Ronaldo. He's there for change.
Messi was there for
change
glory.
while taking their money. But yeah, Chuck. But ultimately, man, it really is a feel good factor for Newcastle, for their fans. If you step away from how they bought the players that they have, for those fans, and this is what football is about. You haven't seen this team win anything in your lifetime, and they've finally done it. And the Carabao Cup, for the big teams, it's a consolation prize, and it's something that they don't really feel anything about if they don't win it. But for a team like a Newcastle who haven't won anything for over half a century, it means absolutely everything, and it's gonna be great to see them on that bus and in that parade. And those Jodies are gonna come out there with no shirts on and with all of them looking like Jack Grealish in a parade.